Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Is there anybody still outside? If anybody still would like to find a seat, please feel free to do so. I'm not going to stand in front of that sign because that's not my name. So, good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Schuster, and it's my pleasure this evening to kick off the festivities. Rafael had asked me to do this a couple weeks ago, and I'm very happy that I'm here this evening. I've known Rafael since about 2002, 2003. During that time frame, I've had the opportunity to get to know him and his boys and his wife, Natalie, get to know my family. I've worked with Rafael in many different areas. But our relationship initially started through some of the philanthropic activities that Rafael has been a part of for many years, and something that's very passionate to him, and the reason that I'm dressed the way I am tonight, and that's veterans, specifically Marine veterans, since he is a fellow Marine, just like myself. And that speaks a lot towards the character and the man that we all in this room know, is that Rafael does so much for his family, number one, but he does tremendous amounts for his community. And all of his activities in supporting the Marine Corps and all veterans that have served kind of brought him back into the Marine Corps back in 2005, 2006, when we were stationed together down at Camp Pendleton in a Marine Reserve unit at the School of Infantry. Rafael actually worked for our commanding officer, but the good news was I was his executive officer, so every once in a while he had to listen to me. But the tables turn, because thankfully for me, I've been in a similar industry for many, many years, and I've been working with Rafael and his team at Quantum. And what I've learned over those years as well, through his successful business, that he also helps people become successful. He's helped many, many people start and run successful businesses, again, giving back to his family and his community. His service in law enforcement, again, those of you in this room probably know his almost 13 years of law enforcement, and many of those years right in the streets of Los Angeles. That's actually one of my best pictures that I like of Rafael. He's under the window with a weapon and a mirror, trying to get the bad guys. The bottom line this evening is that it's really exciting for me. When Rafael came to me, I think a couple months ago, and said, "Hey, Mark, this is what I'm thinking about doing." First words out of my mouth were, "Go for it." I think he's the right type of individual. His background, his service, his family, his community. This is what we need leading the nation and making a change in the capital. It's very, very important. There's a lack of common sense in that part of the world. And I believe that Rafael has the talents and the skills, but more importantly, he has the experience, he has the passion, and he has the desire to make a difference, not for himself, but for all of us and everybody in our community. So I'm very excited to be able to support Rafael, a Marine, law enforcement officer, an entrepreneur, a businessman who does everything that we all think he should do to drive business and support your community. He supports veterans. He supports law enforcement. He's doing everything right. So it's, again, my honor to be here tonight to introduce and start the party. And what I'd like to do is introduce our next speaker, who is also in business with us, a good friend of mine, a mentor, somebody who helps guide me in my business. He is a city council member in the city of Downey, California. I'd like to introduce Alex Saab to please come up next.
It's a huge honor for me to be here today to talk about Rafael, a person we all esteem and we are all here to support. But I think the currency really is more than just Rafael. I want everybody to stop and think for a second. Are we proud of what we are seeing in Washington, D.C.? Can we really look ourselves and say, and look at our kids and say, we want you to be just like that politician in Washington, D.C. right now? I don't think so. What we have with Rafael is someone who we can be proud of. I've worked with Rafael for many years. More importantly, I know him on a personal level. I've known him my whole life, over 30 some odd years. Yes, 30, not 40. Rafael is a person which epitomizes what it is to be a person of character. His ethics, his success as a businessman, his example as a father and as a husband. More importantly, what we see here as leaders in Washington, D.C., we want people who are just like you and I. We've seen Washington is broken. We've seen the politicians, the same old, same old. We keep sending the same people to Washington, D.C. We need to do something different now. We need to send a message to Washington politicians that the same old game's over. So that's why I think that it's so important that we come out and support Rafael. And it's not just about being here today. As a politician myself, I know how important it is to have support in events like this, but what matters most is when we leave here today and we go home, we make those phone calls, we send those emails, those text messages. Each one of us can represent a victory come November and June and November for Rafael. He can't do it alone. As much as Rafael has been able to do in his course of his life and his career, the fact of the matter is, this is an uphill battle. He's up against the machine. He's up against the status quo. And it takes people like you and I to support him, to give him that little extra oomph to take him to victory come November. So at this time, I'm very honored and pleased to introduce our next speaker. The kids, well, let's bring up the kids. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well. You're going to say something. Okay.
My dad works hard for us every day, and he will work hard for you too. Please support my dad. My name is Jordan Dagnesses, and my fellow family.
I'm Natalie Dagnesses.
I'm Joshua Dagnesses.
And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce the next Congressman of the United States, Rafael Dagnesses.
Mr. Dominguez. Sorry, folks.
Double microphone.
Just starting to recognize some people in the crowd. Obviously, this is something very unusual for me. I've never done this before. At this very moment, I want to tell you that today, at this moment, I declare my candidacy for the 26th Congressional District. Fill in the blank. I want to thank you all for being here today. My supporters, those who are looking for someone to support, members of the media, my campaign team, and a special thanks to my friends and family, my wife, Natalie, and my boys. I want to begin with a short biography about myself. Understanding my path and my life, you'll get a grasp of who I am and where I'm going. My story is very similar to many of you in the audience. My story is typical of millions of immigrants that have come to this country for the right reasons, to do the right thing. It took 16 years for me to stand before the flag while wearing the uniform of the United States Marine Corps as a young lance corporal. I had tears that day and goosebumps when I was sworn in as an American citizen. On that day, I considered myself a born-again American. I was born in communist Cuba, arrived in the United States in 1970. No less than a week later, my dad, who fought in the Cuban Revolution and did not want to be part of Miami politics at the time, was a depressed young man. I believe he was in his mid-20s. He left his country, he left his family behind, his friends. He was not happy. He looked at a map, and I remember this day, and he saw the word Los Angeles, Los Angeles. And he said, hey, they must speak Spanish in that city. We're out of here. And a week or two later, I have no idea, don't even remember the trip, but we arrived in LA. And we arrived directly across the street from MacArthur Park at a hotel. My mother was crying, freaking out because of the surroundings and the conditions that we landed in. She was begging my father to return to Miami, and he would not have it. Within a couple of weeks, he got a job as a janitor, cleaning banks in the evenings. He had an assistant, a 6-year-old kid. That was my first job. Cleaning trash cans, ashtrays. As a child, I worked in gas stations, body shops, cleaned the streets for no money. Many other odd jobs, but my first official job was at McDonald's on Western in Hollywood Division as a 15-year-old kid. I was raised in this area commonly known as Rampart Division, Rampart. By anyone's account, this is the inner city. At first, in the early 70s, it was a working class neighborhood where whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians lived together. But something happened along the way. It was a very fast transition. And first the whites left, then our black neighbors, and then most of the Hispanic families also left. And we were left behind. It was as if people disappeared. At that time is when I started to become witness to what gangs and drug violence does to a community and families. I bore witness to the removal of the human spirit by government handouts, the excuses created by poverty to continue in poverty. I was victimized by gang members for the color of my skin. Sorry. However, I also was inspired by hard-working immigrants that we lived in an amazing country with the freedoms to push forward and succeed in life despite our origins. Never to be envious of others who have achieved success and to push forward with our own dreams and objectives. That here in this great nation, anything was possible if you're willing to work hard and stay the course. Some of those people are actually here tonight. They had no idea they were my secret mentors. But they're here tonight, and you know who you are. My parents were never jealous of those friends who left our neighborhood, that took risks and opportunities that came upon them and left the neighborhood for a better life and opportunity and a safer place. Instead, they would say to me and my sister, learn from them. See what they do. Never be envious of others and never give up. Seems like we've lost that in the last 2 decades in this country. We created a culture of envy, and we need to combat that. My parents were never able to initiate and take the risks required to push forward. However, they made sure my sister and I pushed towards those opportunities. So uniquely American. I joined the United States Marine Corps in 1983. I was honorably discharged as an E7, a gunnery sergeant. As a staff sergeant, I graduated from the Navy Marine Corps Intelligence Training Center in Virginia. I was number 2 in my class upon graduation. In 1986, I graduated from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Reserve Academy, and in 1987, I was hired by the Los Angeles Police Department. While with the LAPD, I worked uniform patrol at Hollywood, Rampart, Southwest, and Northeast divisions. I did 3 tours in narcotics, 2 of them as an undercover officer, 1 posing as a high school student, the real 21 Jump Street. I created relationships with some of the worst criminals California has to offer. And unfortunately, we know we have a lot of people in this state that are hardcore convicts. I was cooking crack cocaine with them in a crack house in Pacoima. Months later, arresting them and applying federal statutes to their charges. During my tenure with LAPD, I received over 50 commendations from acts of bravery and letters of appreciation from citizens. I've also been a lifelong entrepreneur since I was a child. During my ventures as an entrepreneur, I've gone broke twice. I'm sure some of you can understand what that means. We had to sell our home, our cars, yes, our toys. I remember buying a $500 truck in the recycler. Is that still around, by the way, the recycler? And this truck leaked oil, and I carried this pan with me. And I would put the pan underneath the car so I wouldn't drip oil on the street. Yes, I am environmentally conscious. I initially was embarrassed of my condition at the time when I lost everything. But I reminded myself, as I always did, don't give up. Don't give up. I never declared bankruptcy. I did not blame anyone. Though there was plenty of blame to go around at the end, I was in charge. It was my final call. It was my fault. Unlike what we hear from Washington often. You guys know what that means, right? I always remind myself that we lived in the United States where we had the freedoms to both succeed and, yes, even fail. That I would never give up, and I would continue to push forward. So instead of working 8 or 10 hours or crying about it and complaining, I worked 14 and 16 hours, 7 days a week, and my wife can attest to this. Yes, there were times that she would get angry. When are you coming home? I was able to recover each time within 12 to 18 months. I have no idea where you go for a government handout, and nor do I ever want to know where you go to a government handout. Each time learning a valuable lesson. My life has been so diverse. It's what makes my run for office so unique. I am not a career politician. As a matter of fact, I am not a politician. I've been a bodyguard to some of the biggest names in show business. Yes, even at my size. I've been a technical advisor on television shows. I've had business partners whose political views were completely opposite of mine. However, still, we had a mission and a mission to accomplish, and we did. While showing them bit by bit that their views were more in line with mine. I know Democrats who are really good people. I know Republicans. I know Republicans who are really good people. Good people, despite their differences, need to be able to communicate and negotiate to accomplish the mission and objectives for the common good of our country. President Ronald Reagan was a master of this approach. What is wrong with Washington today? I am the broker of Quantum Realtors, owner, small boutique real estate firm. I sit on the advisory board of a major international bank. Recently, I was awarded the #2 agent in the country by the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. I'm also a member of the President Ronald Reagan Debt 597 Marine Corps League, Ventura County. As Mark said, I'm an active philanthropist with emphasis on veteran causes like Wounded Warrior and Semper Fi Fund and many others. Now that you've heard a peek to my past, you'll have an understanding of where I stand on the issues. National security. The Reagan Doctrine, peace through strength, should be a critical component of our defense strategy. To avoid wars by keeping our military technically advanced and so strong that those who would cause harm against us would think twice. It also means that the United States should always deal with foreign policy with honesty and a strong unified voice. Incidents like Benghazi, which had an incoherent, dishonest response from our government, should never, ever be allowed to happen again. These type of incidents encourage our enemies, and worse, sends a strong signal to those currently serving in our foreign military, in the foreign service, our military intelligence agencies, the CIA, and our diplomats, that there's a very good possibility their government will not be there when they need them. This includes taking care of our veterans. Weakening the military and our intelligence agencies during times of peace and drawdowns has proven reckless time after time. Research and development in the areas of missile defense, biological EMP, nuclear defense, and cyber terrorism should be ramped up. Sharing our technologies, even with our allies, should be scrutinized and reevaluated. Too often our technologies find themselves in the wrong hands. Government waste and fraud must be sought out and exposed with fierce prosecution of those involved. Could we all agree on that? The American taxpayer must have a trust of our national security apparatus. I'm going to have a little water. Our tax code is about 74,000 pages long today. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent every year by people and business just trying to figure it out. If you've ever called an IRS agent on the phone, they'll tell you they don't even know the information themselves. Armies of lobbyists and accountants earn a living trying to avoid taxes. We need a tax code that is simple, understandable, and fair. We need a tax code that stops encouraging American companies to leave our country and instead brings them back home, bringing good-paying jobs back to America. All energy sources should be on the table. My approach is very, very simple. Is it safe? Is it affordable? Is it sustainable? Let's not pick winners and losers. Our district and our country needs energy to sustain jobs. I'm going to ensure I have jobs in mind when addressing our energy needs. Imagine an America who no longer imports and instead exports energy. What would that do to our economy, our national security, and especially our job growth? Our past policies have been at best dysfunctional. It's time we find a common sense solution. And that's what really my platform is all about, common sense. Our education system is a mess and has been for decades. There are great educators doing great things out there with our children, but we cannot shy away from the gaps. Our government needs to recognize that one size fits all does not work. States and local communities should have control and a say in their children's education. It is critical that schools and parents partner up on the education of their children. It is critical that school systems and its employees be held accountable. It is critical that parents and their children also be held accountable. We should also assist those collecting an education paycheck who are not teaching. Look for a new career without union obstruction. However, we should reward those teachers that go that extra mile for excellence. Crime, it is my specialty. And some may say, you're running for Congress, you don't have to worry about that, that's not your concern. Not me. I'm different. I grew up in it. I was part of it. I fought it. I was victimized by it. Why do we tolerate criminal gangs and drug dealers on our streets? The human cost to our communities, our families is sad and disgusting. This cancer is spreading into our district. It must be stopped. However, we must first acknowledge the truth, that it's here. We must not allow political correctness to hamper our efforts. I intend to be a hands-on representative in assisting law enforcement agencies and communities in combating this cancer, in addition to starting a no-cost mentoring program for those troubled youth. My experience in this area will be invaluable to our district. Obamacare. It speaks for itself. It's about government control, nothing less. The fact that the IRS is part of the Obamacare program should send chills down your spine. It's not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's an American issue. What else has to happen? What else has to happen for this administration and its supporters to admit this is not what was sold to the American public? In conclusion, I want to talk about what I've experienced in the last 2-3 months. The last several months, I met members of our party. This is what I've learned. There are 3 groups. Those who believe it's their way or the highway, they will be on the losing side, always. Then there are the group that's there for the right reasons, who really care about our district, our state, and our country, who are selfless Americans who do it for love of country and community. Then I've met, unfortunately, with members of the machine. Politicians and support personnel who are part of an apparatus for their friends and themselves, who cut deals behind closed doors, support each other, not because they believe in each other, because they owe that person or their friend a favor. When I hear them speak, I do not hear them say anything about our country or the American citizen or even the party. It's all about themselves and their friends and their political alliances. Folks, political cronyism is alive and well. It is part of our national problem. Recently, I was told by a former member of Congress, Rafael, you don't have legislative experience. I replied, maybe what we need in Washington is less legislators and more real people with real common sense approaches to common cause. I've been told I need to smile more often. I believe we need a cleansing in both parties so we may get back to the basics. My opponents, both, are part of this machine. When they speak, their words may sound agreeable to most of us. Those words are often empty rhetoric, placed carefully to gain support. Where would they be without their political jobs?
That's right.
I don't need this job. I'm taking a 70-80% pay cut when I win. I'm doing it for my family and for yours. On paper, my opponents may look great. They all have all the political endorsements and embellishments of their life experiences. It's really interesting to read their bios. I wear a badge of honor with the fact that I don't have a long list of endorsements. The only endorsements I really care about is you, the American people. Why am I running? It may sound like a cliche. Simply stated, for our families, for our community, for our country. I have a deep, deep respect for this country and its freedoms. I am an optimist. I know that we can be that shining city on top of the hill again, as President Reagan stated. Our lights are dim right now, but together we can make it bright again. It's time for real change with real people. If you are truly, truly disgusted with career politicians, please support my campaign. God bless you all. Thank you for coming. Glenn. There you go. I'm introducing Glenn Becerra. He's a city councilman with the city of Simi Valley, and I wanted to especially thank you. Glenn has really stuck his neck out for me in this campaign, and I know he's been pressured by the machine to back off, and it takes a lot of guts to stay in the game and support a novice like myself. So with that, thank you very much, and I know you had a couple of things to say. And, thank you.
So I'm one of those career politicians that Rafael's talking about, and I'm not going to say a lot because he really summed it up beautifully. I know Rafael as a neighbor. His family lived next, actually one house away from us, and where we currently live. I saw him as an entrepreneur, a father and a husband, and a great friend. And that's why I'm supporting Rafael for this seat. A lot of people have talked about me running for this seat. He's the right guy. He's the right guy at the right time, because America needs entrepreneurs, people that risk capital, that risk their families, that risk everything to try to do right by their communities. And we don't have enough of that in this country right now. We need more people like Rafael doing this. I also want to thank Natalie and the boys, because obviously this is a sacrifice that they're giving too. Because they're going to see less of Rafael right now while he's out and trying to shake hands and meet people and convince people like us why we should be putting him in Washington. That's a great sacrifice, so I want to thank you for that. We'll do what I'm going to ask you to do is, this is a great showing of support to kick this off. Go out and find 10 more people that can, show support for Rafael, and ask those 10 people to go find 10 people. That's how you will build this from the grassroots, to be able to give Rafael the support he's going to need to run a successful campaign. And I know together we can do that. So again, the right time, the right person, in the right place for this country. So, I'm proud to call you my friend, my former neighbor. He's got a nicer house now. But, and hopefully our future congressman. That's what I believe. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're probably asking yourself how you can help Rafael. You're probably asking yourself how you can help Rafael.
Very good.
Well, I can attest, and I know Glenn can attest, it's very expensive to run a campaign. Rafael is going to have to raise upwards of $1 million at a minimum just to put up a fight. Okay, so Rafael, I know it's very difficult for him to make the ask, but that's why he's got me. And Glenn. We need your support, not just your support here, your emotional support, your physical support. We need your financial support as well. Today we have some contribution tables here. You can also go online, contribute that way, and really every dollar counts. Rafael and I have talked about the difficulty it is in such a large district as the 32nd, really to get that message out. If people can't hear Rafael and his message, well, he can't win. And how do you get that message out? It takes money. It takes money to send mailers. It takes money to have TV commercials, radio commercials. It takes money to to send that message out. So we ask that you please consider contributing as much as you can. And there's other ways to support as well. We also ask you supporters, because all of you are the people who Rafael holds very near and dear to his heart. If you can host a meet and greet or a coffee at your house, your neighbors around your area. 10 people sometimes makes a whole difference in a campaign, because those 10 people are going to send a message out to their friends and neighbors. Please, on your way out, make sure you sign up, put a business card and your email, and we will make sure we reach out to you. And if you can volunteer to the campaign as well, we would be appreciated. Right now, Rafael is working hard, but come 2-3 months from now, as the primary approaches, Rafael is not going to be able to do this alone. He's going to need each and every one of us to go out there, make phone calls, knock on doors, ask for others to join, volunteer, and in the end, Rafael is going to make the sacrifice for us for being there. We're the ones that enjoy the benefits of having a true leader represent us in Washington to change the culture in our capital and to make the United States a better place. So thank you everybody for coming out. We appreciate you. The Dagnesses family appreciates you. Thank you.
Very good.
I'm trying to smile.
Already signed up when I came in.
Somebody has some
Make an announcement. Have a great night.
Thank you very much.
$10, so I'm gonna all my 5 cents back.
If anybody would like to take a picture with Rafael, please come to the front before you leave, and I'll be back with the picture. Thank you.
He's not grew up like
How much is that?